This article looks pretty fun, but it was so brief and that kind of sucks.
The Nintendo Switch is great for playing games you're ashamed of. Please don't look at me while I play Bayonetta.
You're ashamed of playing Bayonetta in public. How normie of you, motherboard. I'm going to admit with zero shame that I played Xenoblade Chronicles 2 in public and the game has tits, thick thighs, sexy women, and characters who suffer from a multiple personality disorder. Wait, what?
Almost a decade after it was first released, this weekend I finally played Bayonetta. It's a third-person character action game, which is video game review parlance for a video game played from the third-person perspective where you fight a bunch of enemies by chaining elaborate attacks together. After about 5 hours with it over a long weekend, my review is that Bayonetta is fun to play, but that its presentation makes me as uncomfortable as I expected.
Of course it is uncomfortable. You're looking at someone who shoved her tits and asses to your face, whose costume is literally her hair. Now, a great question that needs to be asked is if Bayonetta's outfit is based on her hair, and her hair in the second game is short, then where did it came from?
In this Feminist Frequency video, critic Anita explains how Bayonetta is an overly sexualized male fantasy used to sell video games to men, specifically with a subway billboard in Japan that invited passers to undress the character. In this Gamma Sutra opinion piece, the critic Catherine Cross argues that Bayonetta's overt sexuality actually expresses her character in a way that separates her from the crowd of interchangeable, uninteresting portrayals of heterosexual women that clutter gaming.
I think I'm going to agree with Yahtzee once again with this one. Bayonetta is clearly being ironic on its depiction of sexuality, but that doesn't mean that people will not fap to it.
Ultimately, I don't know how sexist Bayonetta is, but I know that it is stupid as hell, which is fine. I love stupid things. That's probably why I like so many video games.
You goddamn sexist. How dare you like stupid games that demean and objectify women? Anita would straight up call you a garbage human for that, you monster. Seriously though, if we're talking about sexy fictional female characters, I think we should talk about how people deal with those things. There was a question being asked to the developer of SNK Heroines Tag Team by a game journalist from WCC Tech. After questions that are related to the game, they asked the question, if some of the costumes for those heroines are scantily clad, is there any worry of how they are perceived in today's climate in Western countries? To which the director answered, well, everybody wants tits, so we'll give them tits, proving that my faith in humanity is absolutely restored. But there's more to the entire story than just gamers wanting sexy women. It's also for the sake of sexy female characters. And one Twitter user has managed to sum up the arguments coherently, and I use the word coherent very generously. So the argument is fictional characters being depicted in the media is how the world views women, but at the same time, women choose to dress sexily and put makeup in their faces to look more attractive. There's something rather interesting here. But that's not gonna be our main topic for this video. Let's talk about this weird article.
Beefcakes and bimbos save the universe. Sex in gaming and why it's overkill.
Isn't this going to be fun? This is 10 times more fun than talking about how people want to ban video games for school shootings. Before we start this fun, huge thanks to Every Wayne and Hillian Wolfo for the pledges on Patreon. You are fantastic.
Now, I assume most would think, hasn't this been done to death already? Do we really need to discuss this at all? I say sure, why not? The question is, where we begin.
Apparently the We Really segment has a hyperlink and it linked into a page that talks about where to start in mobile game development. As someone who has made mobile apps before, the best advice that I can give to you is to actually start making apps instead of waiting for some magical fairies to do it for you.
Gamers have had sex in it since its early conceptions, from the embarrassing Custer's Revenge to the embarrassing 3D volleyball game based off of a fighting game.
Embarrassing in a sense that normies would just avoid it like the plague and the weebs would just freaking flock to it. But speaking as a weeb, I personally don't see the appeal of Dead or Alive Extreme 3. I'm not saying that just to prove that I'm not a weeb, I'm saying that because even as a weeb, I also have standards in what can please my dick, and Dead or Alive Extreme 3 just doesn't. First off, I'm not too familiar with the Dead or Alive franchise, so a fan service game based on an already established franchise that I'm not too familiar with is going to be a bit too hard to relate to. Second, I'm not too pleased with the 3D animation for this game. It makes the characters seem expressionless and flat-faced. One thing that we love about porn is seeing the expressions of the girls who are being pounded to. Unfortunately, the 3D animation restricts their faces in so many levels, then that just doesn't appeal to me. And third, if the argument to purchase this game is tits and asses, even I am a bit more critical with those two excuses. Why should I pay full price when the game is ecchi but not explicit? I know that some people can get the appeal with the teaser, but I prefer the final product, please. And if your gameplay consists of nothing but minigames that that aren't really that fun to begin with, then why should I buy your game? That is essentially my problem with fan service games. Their gameplay is mediocre at best. At least Bayonetta has great combat. At least the actual Dead or Alive has some good fighting mechanics. You might find pleasure in playing Dead or Alive Extreme 3, but it's just not for me when other games provide richer, more thoughtful, more addicting gameplay, and porn is available for free. It's like choosing between a hooker who will have sex with you for free and a stripper who merely teases you for $60. The point is, we all love to slap tits and asses as a good excuse to buy video games, but we tend to do that ironically. In the end, that excuse still needs to be considered if you want to make your purchase worth. With the existence of fan service games that have tits, asses, and actual gameplay mechanics, why do I need games that merely serve me those things, or serve me those and then have token mediocre gameplay? Nier Automata has tits and asses, but it also has a fun gameplay and interesting story. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 has tits and asses, but it also has fun combat mechanics and likable characters. Tekken 7 has tits and asses, but it's also pretty damn freaking fun. Dead or Alive, the actual fighting game, has tits and asses already on their own, and it's also pretty freaking fun. And now that they're on the PC, you can mod it to your heart's content, in which 2B can end up fighting Hestia from Danmachi. I wouldn't call Dead or Alive Extreme 3 embarrassing just because the game serves tits and asses, but I will, however, criticize it for being lost in competition. It's a game that definitely has a very niche audience appeal, but it's actually under threat of being stumped by competitors that can provide fan service while also having legitimately good content. I'm not saying that games that merely serve fan service shouldn't exist entirely. I'm saying that they need to do a lot more if they want to be successful, because the competition is getting very tight with the amount of success both Nier and Xenoblade have. I'm certainly not asking them to remove the tits and asses though. Just give us something else that can make the purchase worthier than browsing Pornhub. So congratulations Dead or Alive Extreme 3 for basically being in a positive light for 2 years on my channel before finally getting the criticism boot. It's thanks to moral guardians telling the masses to ban this sick filth that you end up having sold so much. Play Asia had to export tons of you internationally. You're a game that got lucky that you actually get so much attention from the press and also my audiences. If you don't, you're just gonna be forgotten in the dust and be trampled down by other games, not just those without fan service, but also those with. And I think you should absolutely be afraid of those. Custer, on the other hand, well, actually it's on the same hand because I also don't see the appeal, is like trying to fap with an on a hole made of Lego bricks. If you're into that sort of thing, I really want to know how you can get your dick in and out of that thing without bleeding, because that's just desperate.
Sometimes it's a good way of exploring or setting up plots, from the X cheated on X with X storyline and so forth. In other cases though, sex in gaming is meant to be eye-catcher and not necessarily for the betterment of the product.
The link in the bottom leads to a very interesting article from Deus Ex Designer Warren Spector saying that Lollipop Chainsaw shouldn't have been made. Don't get me wrong, I freaking love Deus Ex, it's my favorite game of all time, but saying that a game shouldn't exist is just a bit too extreme, and even the author of this article agrees. I say let these games exist and let them compete in the market. If they bomb, they bomb. If they sell, they sell. Simple as that. But what I don't understand is why this paragraph linked that article. It's apparently done to highlight the point about how sex in gaming is meant to be an eye-catcher. That article has nothing to do with that statement at all. I'm not sure why you have to link that in the first place.
I'm not saying men aren't used as sex objects in gaming either, but in terms of pervasiveness, women are used a hell of a lot more.
I cannot deny that. It's one of the most attractive qualities that a woman has, more so than a man. There's nothing wrong with this at all. Women will be used as models to make things more attractive. Men, however, will be used as soldiers for the war, to be ripped to shreds, killed by monsters, and suffer trauma. I think taking all my clothes off is much better. Shameful, but at least I don't get my arms ripped.
Samus Aran stands as one of the biggest examples, seeing that stupid ass bikini ending. Really, Nintendo? Do we really have to see 8-bit bikinis?
I personally don't see the appeal of 8-bit bikini Samus myself, but then again, it's the early Nintendo age. They're gonna find any way to rob the innocence of young children, especially the rich ones.
It's stuff like this that makes it look like male gamers are horn dogs that will drool over anything that has TNA in it. The goddamn blue catsuit they put her in didn't add anything to the game other than making Samus a dominatrix in space with a freaking laser whip.
There are two links to that paragraph. One is a link about how video games have a history of sexualizing women, which is about as obvious as saying the sun rises in the east. And the second one just shows Zero Suit Samus to make the point that Zero Suit Samus looks like a dominatrix. If you're going to criticize Metroid, why not criticize Samus's horrendous depiction in Other M? Degrading an established badass into a moronic crybaby with massive daddy issues is perhaps 10 times more insulting than degrading a badass character into a sexy dominatrix. I think sexy dominatrix can be absolute badasses too. In fact, Samus can wear literally nothing and can still kick alien ass. It's the character's actions that define them, not the suit of armor that they're wearing.
Yeah, no, please, Mr.
Let's have it.
You don't understand. This is all I have. I'm nothing without this suit.
If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it.
If Samus took off her freaking armor to show her tits, so what? She can still break her neck and rip and tear aliens to the point where she would probably be a great substitute for Doom Guy. The way you complain about her clothing tells me more about the kind of person I'm dealing with here. You only care about the looks of a video game character rather than the character of a video game character.
Samus was a legendary badass who could fight aliens out of my nightmares and deserved to be treated as such. I mean, Master Chief isn't gonna bust out a Chippendales dancing routine on us, is he? While rocking a mankini in his helmet, is he?
That's the one thing I find bizarre with that argument. You need to understand that what men finds attractive in women is completely different than what women finds attractive in men. Link doesn't have to wear the skimpiest of outfit and he still has fangirls that want to bang him, both in-universe and out. Probably even some of the boys. I don't know about the Master Chief fangirls, but girls love badass dudes with a shade of mystery on them. The point is, they don't have to wear an outfit that is as skimpy as the female characters, and you would still have the girls to dream about them endlessly. Shockingly enough, they don't even have to respect them.
I don't hang out with kids.
Girls are freaking weird. Samus has certainly been over-sexualized in a lot of games, but I still don't understand the contention. We're talking about equality here, right? If your argument is that the boys should in some way suffer through over-sexualization, just like the girls, then you're not arguing on the basis of equality. You're arguing on the basis of revenge and petty personal gain. Women get over-sexualized a lot, but the boys do too, except they're done in a completely different way. One could say that the boys women love don't even have to undress themselves to make them instantly hit the smash button. Link is one example, and I found a strange but very fascinating group of girls who are fanboying over the Demi-Fiend from Nocturne. I mean, I can't really blame them, he looks freaking cool and edgy, but my point still stands. No pun intended.
Kasumi in Dead or Alive was another one. I didn't know ninjutsu training required you to wear as little as possible while being underage is a prerequisite, and she wasn't the only one.
Okay, so some Dead or Alive characters are either underage or are still in high school. So are the characters in Persona. In fact, Futaba is 15 years old, and if you fap to her, you're a monstrous lolicon or something. But thankfully, you don't have to feel guilty because she just celebrated her 17th birthday in February 19th, which makes her barely legal for fapping. Also, I just found out about this, but Futaba's birthday is the exact same as mine, and if the whole game takes place in 2016, then she would be 3 years younger than me right now. Nice to see that she's still a great little sister character. Anyway, I'm getting off track. The point is, these are all fictional characters. Sexualizing an underage fictional character might be disturbing to some people, but hey, at least it's not real children. And if your argument is that video games will make real-life pedophiles, then please compare the rapes per capita rate of Japan with the US and the UK before you speak out. For the record, Japan absolutely loves the lolis.
2B from Nier Automata is another character with a costume choice that makes one roll their eyes. So silk lace dress and high heels is your choice of armor? An android that is the most technologically advanced creation of human science and they put her in a Victoria's Secret catalog dress?
Oh, don't you start talking crap about the maid outfit that 2B wore. There are so many things that are nonsensical in Nier Automata, and that's just the least of it. The one thing I learned about Nier Automata is if you want to be nonsensical, at least be attractive.
Men in games can also become subjects of sexual objectification. Dante with the slim look or the Gears of War soldiers are examples in which men are portrayed as half refrigerators with biceps that's the size of canned hams.
Yes, they are. Let's also talk about how Link's attractiveness transcends the fourth wall to both genders.
I hardly hear men quip up saying, "That's sexist. Men don't look like that at all."
Maybe because boys just don't really care about it, and frankly, it's for the best because boys are not insecure twerps who care about their looks so much, at least compared to the girls.
Even when Sarkeesian was making salient points, people were threatening her and many others with a similar ideology. Seriously, can we please stop threatening her as though she's gonna turn into a giant monster and burn down the whole gaming industry?
You know what? I completely agree. Let's not friend Anita and many of these feminists with death threats. Why? Because your time is so much better spent playing video games or fapping to hentai. Sending her death threats even just for the lols is not as fun as destroying robots into pieces with giant floating longswords. I mean, come on guys. But there's one thing that I also disagree with that statement. Anita is not destroying the video game industry. Anita is destroying the Western AAA gaming industry. An industry that I really cannot wait to just freaking die already. In fact, the writer agrees with me.
But if she can turn into a giant monster and if you're up to it, Sarkeesian, at least start with EA.
Well, You are correct, writer. You are not just correct, but she actually already did. If Anita Sarkeesian is going to destroy a video game industry, can we at least direct her to destroy a video game industry that we also want to destroy for years now? The Western AAA gaming industry is dying, and Anita will definitely accelerate the process. I mean, screw the death threats. Let's send her some love letter and encourage her to go to EA, Ubisoft, and Activision. Hi, Anita. I love your works. Please encourage EA, Activision, and Ubisoft to add more diversity and representation. Sue them if you have to. Bring your best guns and make them bend to your knees, please.
The fact that I'm required to suspend my disbelief when playing video games is a given. I do not believe a shirtless man in a red trench coat with a thong-clad woman wielding swords would be the proper hero to save the world, the universe, or a goddamn snow cone shack. Look, there is suspending my disbelief, then there is hanging it to the death.
There is fun, and then there is boring. You are boring, writer. You give a very entertaining article, but the most entertaining part of that is seeing you trying to convince me with your dumb arguments and your garbage attempt at humor. I am a guy of presentation. Your ideas might be the best in the world, but it won't be as good if it's not presented well. And unfortunately, your ideas are not presented well. If you want to have a really good presentation, please consult Trap Link's costume designer.